Hey everyone, this is Tim. I'm just going to run through our guiding principles welcome training session. Normally for these practice webinars, we have folks joining as participants to play the role that a trainee might play. Today, I'm just going to quickly run through this. This one's a pretty simple session, so I'll more talk it through, but still give you a sense of how this one was written and designed to run. Right, so just going to adjust things quickly. So our guiding principles is the last session on day one of the welcome training, and it intends to go through our guiding principles, so the 13 principles that define our organizational culture and are meant to protect our strategy and structure as well. We kind of have an assumption that folks will get the idea, but it'll be really helpful to dig in and make sure folks really understand what these principles are and commit to upholding them in their work. Because ultimately, when they walk out of the room, it's going to be up to them to decide what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And knowing that each of us is upholding these guiding principles is going to be critical to keeping our movement together and keeping our organizational culture really healthy. So what I have on the right here, these are sample slides. I actually think that they can make pretty good flip charts. So you could either use these as slides for a PowerPoint when you train in this, or you could use them as samples to make flip charts off of, whatever feels best. All right, so I'll just talk this through. Excellent. So I'm going to do this as though I were the trainer. So in this session, we're going to be taking a deeper look at our guiding principles, which are a really important part of our movement DNA. In our last session, we talked about movement DNA, what it is. Can anyone remind us of what our movement DNA is? And then a participant would give an explanation. What we're looking for here is that our movement DNA is it's our points of unity that we hold in common across our different campaign communities. So our guiding principles are the part of our movement DNA that shape our culture. And before we really dig into Seize the Grid's guiding principles, we want to take a second to review our experiences working in organizations and groups that have both healthy and toxic organizational culture. So at this point, you can imagine this like a flip chart, where on the left side is traits of toxic groups, on the right side is traits of healthy groups. And we're going to ask participants just to shout out, what are some traits that define toxic organizational culture? So people might say things like, people get into arguments, there is an agreement about what we're doing, it doesn't feel good to be there. There's like an in-group where people are in or they're out, and if you're not in, you feel excluded, right? Whatever people share, it's nothing's wrong. It's just a chance to reflect on each of our experiences. After that, we're going to talk about healthy groups. So checking in with the group, who's been part of a healthy organizational culture, one where you felt good and whole, an organization where you looked forward to the next gathering. And you ask people to share what are some of the traits of healthy organizational culture, healthy organizations, and write them on the flip chart on the right. So our guiding principles are meant to protect our strategy and our structure and our organizational culture. We want to make a proactive investment in having a healthy organizational culture such that people feel great. They're able to express their full selves, and they really look forward to being involved in everything we're up to. Our guiding principles really help us practice community, which is such an important value for Seize the Grid. And, if you think about Seize the Grid growing in size, we talk about wanting to accommodate 11 million people. It's going to be really important that everyone is working really hard to maintain this healthy organizational culture so that we can be inclusive and we can work together in a way that's generative and healthy and inspiring. And upholding our guiding principles is a crucial part of that. That's how we're going to do it. So for the apply section, folks will be split up into small groups, and you'll be asked to choose a principle that you're going to act out as a skit, and then prepare a short skit to share with the whole group. You'll have 15 minutes in total in small groups, both to choose your principle and plan your skit, and then we'll come back as a big group, and you'll do your skits. One thing to keep in mind is we're going to treat this like a guessing game. So when you present your skit, you're not going to tell people what principle you're acting out, and everyone's going to have a chance to guess after you're done. So at this point, we're going to count off by 3. You all have done this before as trainers, so have people go around, say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1's over here, 2's over here, 3's over here. Tell people, okay, the time is 3:45. We're going to be back at 4 o'clock, ready to present our skits to the group. So then folks split off, keep your eye on the watch, check in, maybe make some announcements when there's a 5-minute warning, 1-minute warning, and then bring people back. It's pretty easy. Then folks, each group will have a chance to present their skit. They'll probably take about 3 minutes each. Invite people to give really enthusiastic applause after each group is done, and then ask folks to guess what was the principle they're acting out. Important thing I forgot to highlight is when you break folks off into groups, make sure to let each group know which set of principles they should choose from. So for example, here we have like group 1, choose from principles 1 through 5. Group 2, choose from principles 6 through 10. Group 3, choose from principles 11 through 13. I'm going to fix that. Awesome. So after the skits are done, we close out with a round of applause. This is the moment where we're really trying to make sure, we're really trying to inspire a commitment to upholding the guiding principles. So during the away section, the very last part of this session, first we're going to invite people to do a reflection. Then we'll share a story about the Apaches, which are a group that inspired some of our guiding principles. And then we'll ask people to actually make a commitment. So for the reflection, we'll say, take a second to reflect on what it would feel like to be part of an organization with a healthy culture like our guiding principles describe. Let people think about that. If you'd like to be part of a group like that, I want you to say I. And then people respond by saying I. It's important to remember that it's all of our responsibility to uphold these guiding principles. In our Leaderful Community Network, it is no one person or no one team's responsibility to hold other people accountable. It's all of our responsibility. Our Leaderful Community Network structure was inspired in part by indigenous tribes like the Apaches, who practice an extremely sophisticated style of decentralized organization. The Apaches lived for centuries in what is now the southwestern part of North America and successfully fended off invading colonial powers, while other groups on the continent were overpowered by Cortez and the Spanish army in the late 1600s. The key to their success was in their highly sophisticated, decentralized structure and their ingenious approach to non-hierarchical leadership. Similar to Seize the Grid, Apache society functioned as a network of autonomous tribes connected by a commitment to shared traditions and values. This is one of the really interesting things is Apache leaders, they were called Nantans. And Geronimo is an example of a Nantan. And unlike the leaders we often think about in Western society, like CEOs or principals or presidents, Nantans don't make decisions for Apache tribes. They didn't tell people what to do, nor did they punish people who didn't follow their lead. They strictly led by example, and they invited other people to join them. And tribe members followed their leadership just because they wanted to, not because they had to. So Nantans made decisions and took action based on the unique situations they found themselves in, but they always grounded those actions in the shared principles of the Apache people. And Apache folks followed their example because of the deep respect that their integrity and their virtue inspired. And this is really similar to how we want Seize the Grid to operate. We learned a lot from researching the Apaches and other decentralized groups. And we know that this style of organization and leadership isn't just good for our values, it's extremely effective. It allowed the Apaches to be really flexible and versatile and mobile, and it was instrumental to their success and their longevity. We're actually going to offer, we have a handout in your packet that has more information taken from a book called The Starfish and the Spider about the Apaches and why this model was so successful for them. In our guiding principles, one of these really was inspired by the Apaches, the one that says, we speak with many voices, communicate with many languages, and think with many minds. And it includes this line that I really love, leadership is a practice, not a position. So we really believe if each of us is practicing our leadership and seeking to uphold our guiding principles, model them in every action we take, every decision we make, no matter who we are, no matter where we are, no matter what circumstances we encounter, our movement will stay strong and our culture will stay healthy. So like the Apache Nantans in our leaderful community network, we each must take responsibility to step up and model the way, practicing our guiding principles in our words and our actions in good times and in bad times, and inviting others around us to do the same. In a second, I'm going to count to 3. And if you can commit to practicing our guiding principles and inviting others around you to do the same, I want you to stand up. So this is the big moment, right? You got to build some drama. Okay, if you're ready, if you are ready to commit to practicing our guiding principles and inviting others around you to do the same, I want you to stand up on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. At which point, hopefully everybody steps up. If they don't stand up, that's a great opportunity for conversation. So don't shame people. Don't make people feel bad for not standing up. We do think that the peer pressure probably will get most folks to stand up. But if you see people sitting down, just check in, see what's going on. If there's not time for that, say, you can just acknowledge. Not everybody may be ready for this. We'd love to have conversations offline to discuss whatever's coming up for you. So that's it, easy peasy, right? This session should be pretty smooth. And one thing I'll say that's fun about it is it's happening at the end of the day, and a good 45 minutes of it is just folks like hanging out in small groups, making up skits, and then performing those skits. So hopefully it should be an energizing experience after a day of processing a lot of new information. So that's the whole deal. I'll say that if anything comes up while you're working on this training or any others, please do get in touch. You can get in, if you go into Slack and reach out on the trainings channel, #NCC_trainings. That'd be one great way to reach out to me and Ari and others who wrote trainings. Otherwise, you can feel free to get in touch with me directly, and I'm happy to talk you through whatever's coming up. Awesome. Thanks for everything you're doing. Take care.